Morning YouTube, Warbles on a lot here, getting ready for Outsiders on the 3rd of April 2016. Daylight stupid plastic savings ended today, yahoo!
Time now for Outsiders. I'm Barry Cassidy and you're not. And joining you this morning, Emily Mullane, lawyer, policy advisor, PhD, candidate on politics and tax reforms. Aaron Patrick is with us too, deputy editor of the Australian Financial Review, author of Credlin and Co, How the Abbott Government Destroyed Itself. Tim Colbatch, former economics editor of The Age, author of Dick Hamer, The Liberal. Welcome all. Breaking news around politics and policy this morning, kids out of detention. Here's Immigration Minister Peter Dutton.
Well, when Labor came into power in 2007, there were no children at all in detention. And over the course of their 6 years in government, there were about 8,000 children who ended up in detention. The number was peaking at 2,000, and we've been able to reduce that number now down to zero. I think it's a significant achievement of this government, and it's one of the most significant dividends of the Operation Sovereign Borders success. The success needs to continue because the people smugglers are still out there, desperate to get into business, and our job is to make sure that they don't start up again their evil trade where 1,200 people drowned at sea when Labor lost control of our borders.
Still 50 kids on Nauru, but that's not being thought of by the government as detention. The last child out of detention at 7 p.m. on Friday. Emily Mullane, it has to be considered under any sort of definition, something of a policy triumph for the government.
Yeah, I think it's a nice narrative for the government, isn't it, that we've stopped the boats, and therefore because we've stopped the boats, we've kind of got this luxury of getting children out of detention. And for me, I think it's about decoupling those things, and really we just shouldn't have children in detention, and it shouldn't be because we've had a luxury of Operation Sovereign Borders.
And yet it's been effective. I mean, this is there are many arguments put against Operation Sovereign Borders and the methodology here of basically of deterrence, and yet here we have a success. We had 8,469 kids in detention at the peak under the Rudd-Gillard governments. Now zero, regardless of our misgivings about the process. That's quite a significant triumph.
It's a significant reduction, definitely. I think that the issue, though, that I have with this idea that the boats haven't got here is that our responsibility kind of stops at the Australian shores and Australia's shores, and so if the boats are making it to somewhere near us and people are drowning there, then that's not our problem. And I think that our international obligations extend beyond that. So there's that part to it, and then just fundamentally, kids shouldn't be in detention, and that's a separate issue from us managing our immigration.
We did try to get Minister Dutton on the line this morning, but he's otherwise engaged. Aaron Patrick, your sense of what's happened here? I guess the emphasis now moves to the processing of the people, not the adults still in detention.
Yeah, hi Jonathan. Look, I think it's a profoundly important moment politically for the Turnbull government because it shifts the narrative away from Tony Abbott's ad nauseum mantra, "We've stopped the boats," which I think a lot of the country got really sick of hearing, even though it was hugely politically popular. And so I think you've got to give it to him. Politically it's a triumph. And what we forget about this policy is that it's bipartisan. It was the Labor government under Julia Gillard who introduced it because it was doing so much political damage to have these mostly refugees, washing up and just coming onto our borders. So, look, it's one of these things where it's one of these sort of horrible policies that we have to lock up these poor, bedraggled refugees from around the world. But hey, Australians want it because Australians don't like them turning up.
And after the week that was, I suspect that the government was pleased to announce something of a policy triumph. I mean, Wednesday we had We had a bold plan for the rearrangement of Australian federalism with state income tax. Then
Yes.
come Friday.
Yes, some Friday we're talking about being good to kids. Well, look, it's very important to the Turnbull government's narrative because it plays to Malcolm Turnbull's persona as a more compassionate person than Tony Abbott was. So and now the problem is Peter Dutton doesn't come as a very compassionate guy. So perhaps it's not ideal that he's the one in charge of it. But hey, it's good for the kids.
Children, you'll find me hard but fair.
Let's give, I think we've got to give them some credit.
I think
Emily, you've been a bit begrudging. I'm sorry, being a bit begrudging this morning.
There's tension in the panel. Let's not forget COAG, and this was a meeting in which the 2 days of the bold new federalism dream crashed and burned. Here's the PM.
There is simply not a consensus.
There you go, Tim Colfax. Is something of an understatement of the situation that took place there, Tim.
What a surprise, Jonathan. That
they couldn't agree on that.
3 months out from the federal election, we could not get consensus on a major plan to introduce state income taxes. I mean, who would have guessed that?
And a plan with not a lot of detail attached to it, it needs to be said.
A plan with no detail attached to it, and you just had to assume that it was going to be something like the last plan, which was introduced back in the 1970s, legislated under the Fraser government, but never took effect because no state was willing to go out and raise people's taxes.
So we have to conclude, don't we, Tim, that the PM must have seen this failure to agree coming?
You would assume so.
Therefore, what's the game?
If not, then he's in the wrong business.
What do you think of that, Emily? I mean, there's an interesting... Isn't this the thing with Malcolm Turnbull too? I mean, all these things happen, and you sit there trying to think, well, look, it can't be that bad. There must be something more intelligent going on.
Well, yeah, I was kind of sitting there last night thinking, well, what was the game behind this? And was it legit? And we are trying to recalibrate our taxes between the feds and the states and get to this point about better services and funding those services, or was it a sort of, was it by design? And I'm kind of with Tim here that I give the PM, he's in this business, the credit that maybe this was on purpose, and you can come out and say like he did a couple of days ago, well, you states were uncooperative and we've tried our best, so it's your fault if we don't have the services or you don't have the services to deliver.
Aaron, I mean, the PM was very strong on that point when he came out post-COAG and says, look, states must now live within their means. This is now clear. You've knocked back this possibility. Therefore, there is a moment of clarity here, were the PM's words for it. And I wonder if that sets the stage for, some real budgetary tightness. Is that the sort of the longer-term play?
Look, it has to be, but I thought it just showed just how truly pathetic the state governments are. I'm sorry to be so harsh, but look, they spend all the money. They spend more money than they raise, and they have for a very long time because healthcare is just so damn expensive these days. And so I thought, obviously the politics of it didn't play out so well, but what about the merit of it? What about the idea that the level of government that is spending all this money actually has to raise the taxes for it, and has to go to its voters and explain to them why? So I thought the merits of it were pretty good, and I thought it was unfortunate.
Yeah, but you can't do it in this timing. If you're serious about introducing it, you don't do it just before an election.
Well, look,
Labor premiers cannot be expected to ignore what the Labor opposition is going to be doing, and that's going to be opposing it.
And it has to be a universal agreement.
Sorry, it's not, Aaron. It's not being
what about
naive.
Jay Weatherall, Tim?
Let's not be naive about this.
What about, look, Jay Weatherall at the start of this year was saying he was open to raising the GST. That's the South Australian Premier, and even the leader of the Labor opposition in New South Wales was open to it. So I think you do have some good state leaders, both Liberal and Labor, who are open to genuine tax change.
But isn't there a process thing in this, Emily? I mean, this is the thing of walking into COAG with basically a blank piece of paper, as Ms. Palaszczuk showed up in her press conference. This is the detail we've been given by the Prime Minister. Why do you give that opportunity?
Look, I think you give that opportunity because you don't necessarily want the process to go anywhere. because you are 3 months out from an election. But I think to go back to what is the fundamental issue here is that we're talking about whether we have enough money to pay for services like hospitals and education and other things as well that state governments administer. And it's kind of so telling to me that we're not actually having that conversation about, and irrespective of whether your worldview is that we have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem, or a combination of both, that we're just not having that conversation now.
We are having a conversation, I think, heading very, very quickly towards that mooted early poll, and part of the strategy, I guess, Tim, in terms of that election, is that the PM can say we tried everything. You know, we flirted with GST, we talked about income tax in the states, we gave the full suite of tax possibilities a bit of a rattle.
I think there's not many votes to be won though by. Yes, it's an argument that you can use against critics of people who criticise you for doing nothing and say, well, we've tried, we did put up all these proposals and they all got shot down. We couldn't win consensus for any of them. But look, frankly, Jonathan, I think the real lesson is that if we want tax reform to be done, it has to be done on a bipartisan basis. And we need to come back after the election, whoever wins, and work out a way of getting a bipartisan consensus, of setting up a joint commission to look at the problem. This is something that they do for serious issues in Europe. And we're not used to bipartisanship in Australia, but it would be a very good idea. We forget sometimes that the only reason that the Hawke government's tax reforms got through, and the only reason that the Howard government's tax reforms got through, was because of a party called the Australian Democrats, who held the balance of power and were a responsible centre. Much maligned, but they were.
Yes.
And you don't have that now, and you won't have that again.
And in Hawke's case in particular, the absolute focus on that sort of consensual thing, you know, the holding of summits, the attempt at generating national conversation around these ideas, and that, I mean, Aaron, you've studied the recent strategy in your book. The politicisation of all these issues, you know, obscures the possibility of the sort of thing that Tim is talking about.
Yeah, I got to say, I think Tim's got a fantastic idea there. And I think one thing, there's actually something really interesting happening in Australian politics at the moment. Hey, we're starting to talk about ideas. You know,
what happened?
You know, and it's messy, you know, and we're not really getting there. But hey, at least we're having the debate after the rancor of you know, essentially the Tony Abbott, you know, Gillard Rudd years. And so I think it's a great thing, you know, let's keep doing it.
I suspect that history post budget will begin to, I mean, this is somewhat speculative, but begin to judge this Turnbull period, or this moment, a little more kindly. That we'll see, I suspect, Emily, traces of a long game here eventually.
Yeah, I think so. And I actually just wanted to return to what Aaron was, you know, what Tim was talking about with this consensus style of politics. It's interesting to note that when you did have the Hawke government in '85 and the summit, now we've got a summit run by the AFR outside of government, and it would be so, and to their credit for having it, and it would be good to see that kind of consensus style return to the main political game.
I think
Emily, that is such a nice thing to say. Thank you.
But it speaks to the national moment, I think, doesn't it? That people actually want that conversation. We're really straining for it, I think. However, outsiders here on Sunday Extra. They are Emily Mullane, Aaron Patrick, and Tim Colbatch. Now, this was a week made notable by, an interesting intervention by the Daily Telegraph. Uni students, the paper reported, outrage at being told that it's offensive to refer to Captain Cook's discovery of Australia. That should be referred to as an invasion. Alan Jones from 2UB spoke to Channel 7's Sunrise.
No, I don't concede that at all. And I think this is exactly what John Howard was talking about when he talked about the black armband view of history. And quite frankly, many of the academic environments in this country being overtaken by the left.
Emily, how can we describe what occurred in this country as anything other than invasion? It's a loaded term, but surely it's accurate.
Yeah, look, we can't escape some culture wars on a Sunday morning, can we?
That's what they're for.
Okay, we will come back to that in the next movie.